in Women's Month. We brought today special guests. We have Dr. Minet Sepulvedad with us here today. So welcome her. In the chat, you can type, thank you for being here. And our topic, so the reason why we bring this speakers we have been bringing is to help us and to motivate us on these tough times and throughout our lives. And our topic for today, her topic is going to be connect, fail, and prevail. Okay, so Miss Dr. Sepulveda, she wears, several hats. She's the women, March. She's a mom, she's a Latina, she's a professional, and she's an athlete. So she fills all the boxes for us. And we are very excited to hear from her. She is a chiropractor in the Bay Area in Belmont. She's a trainer, a health coach, and she competed in track and field and weightlifting. And so if you need, you can follow, if you would like, it will be nice if you could follow her. You can find her at Infinite Body Health and Instagram. And you can, if you need any help with injuries or even developing a nice program or even nutrition plan, anything, you can go through her. And this is her. Look at those muscles. Oh my goodness. She is strong all around. She's
Olympian. Like, the most important thing when you say athlete, Olympian.
Olympic athlete, yes.
Olympian. She went to the Olympics, so we have to focus on that.
Yes, she's the whole package. She's just not a an athlete, but she's also very smart. And in her Instagram, you'll see a little bit of her background, educational background. This is her team where she works, and this is, you can read there a little bit. But I was very impressed when I saw this 2005 Life Chiropractor College cum laude. How do you say that? Cum laude. That means
cum laude.
Cum laude. Okay, that means she was at the top of her class.
With honors, yeah.
With honors, exactly. 2005, and then same thing in Puerto Rico. She's from Puerto Rico, guys, the University of Puerto Rico. She also graduated with honors as well. And in 2011, percent private practice chiropractor personal trainer, a coach, at Crunch in Redwood City. And this is all her certifications. And oh my gosh, I'm tired of just reading. Look at that. So we are honored. She does posture, strength training, recovery from injury, anything you need. She's like the whole package for sure. So I'm going to start screening my share, and we're going to have her tell us a little bit about her story, where's she from, and all that. Let's see. And at any time, guys, if you have any questions, type it on the chat. We're going to be looking at the chat. Welcome, Miss Dr. Sepulveda.
Thank you all for having me. It's actually very inspiring for me to volunteer my time into the community. And like, when you asked me, I was like, oh, I will be honored to do this. And I have done it many times, and like every time it's cool because it challenged me in a different way. And teachers and in schools and in graduate schools, they have different themes that they wanted to work with. So this was really nice because we will talk about things that were helpful to me when I was growing up, and how I have actually like prevailed through things. So that's what I named the whole talk, Connect, Fail, and Prevail. And we will go a little bit over that later. Hopefully I have the time. So yeah, Women's Month, it's this month. And I think that every month is Women's and Men's Month. It's just happened that that with society, we have, women have been empowering themselves and being eager to have the same work lines and the same status quo that men, that, you know, which is equality. So that's what, you know, this is Women's Month. But now, quería decir también en español que Olga me dijo, puedes hablar en español un poco, así que no voy a hablar todo en español, pero quiero decir que me encanta ser mujer y que estoy, que creo que es algo muy bonito que no debemos, pues, disminuir, porque hay veces que ser mujer es tenemos más retos, pero es algo muy bonito también que debemos de todo el tiempo de estar seguras de que ser mujer es algo bueno que Dios nos dio, que no tenemos que estar, pues como diría, con vergüenza o no pensar que tenemos los mismos recursos. Well, I'm not saying in English. So I was just saying that that being a woman, it's actually a good thing, and that that we have to be proud of being a woman, and we don't, you know, we sometimes believe, and because we see the inequality and we see that we think that we don't have the same resources, but we can make it through, and that now we do have them, and that we have to like just continue to power through everything. And basically that's the prevail fact of it, right? So now I think that in general, I am going to, I love faith, and I think that faith is something that has helped me through all my years and growing up. And sometimes I think that we don't have parents, or we don't have the exposure of having some faith on something spiritual. And I think in my case, helped me a lot. And I love these parable of Matthew. And if you are interested, you could go and look into it. For the time being, we don't have the time right now, but it's basically Matthew 25 from verse 14 to the 25th. And basically that talks about talents. And I think that it's very applicable for what we're talking about right now, because a lot of times when we are growing up, we do not know what we're called for, right? And we are lost into so many things, and everybody's pulling us, like our parents. If we do have good parents, because we don't, all of us have good parents, you know, some parents, they give us the best that they can, but a lot of times they are not equipped to be what we call a good parent. So it's up to us, right? So it's actually even harder, right, to spring out of that. But when we have a good parent, then they are trying us to find out what we want to do later. And so these verses, you will find that this Lord gave, you know, these talents to these people, and these servants, what they did is some of them invested them, some of them invested a little, and some of them hide them. And they basically, and that's how, you know, that's things that we have in our life. The way that I want you to see this is that sometimes we have these talents and we don't know what they are, but they are in us. And it's our job to find what are we good at and what we can do with them, and then to invest them, to put basically the time and the effort into making them bigger. And then that's how, after failing so many times, then we can prevail. And so basically that's what God wants us to do. Or if you will say, that's what we are created for. We're created here with something to do, with basically let us find our purpose. And then from there, then we can, you know, prevail. So just in a nutshell, that's kind of like what I would like you guys to kind of get. So from my life, basically, and I think Olga, you had like something in there that at the beginning, but basically when I grow up in Puerto Rico. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and it's a little island in the middle of the Caribbean. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but in between North America, and then you have South America, then you have the Caribbean Sea, and then you have the Atlantic Sea, and you have small islands inside there, and that's the Caribbean, right? And some of the islands are Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. There's a bunch of islands there. And so we are lucky enough that you know, I'm not gonna get into politics, but we have a lot of resources, given the fact that even though we're not comparable to a big country like United States, we have a lot of good factors that help us to prevail. And so it's up to us, and it's up to here, even though you're in North America, it's up to you if you want to use those talents and go for it, right? So I grew up in a normal middle class, high end class, and none of my families were athletes. I know that some people play baseball, but not at the they didn't, you know, went so far with it. I always like running, and that's something that it ends up being helping me later. And so basically I started to run, and I was in school, and I found that I really like running. So I had my mother look into this other school, and I end up moving far away. No, not moving, but going far away to school. Like at that time was like 30 minutes. So instead of going really close by, I decided to go to this school that was out of the town that I was. So then I could find more resources, so then I could run. So I end up being a very good track athlete at a point that you know, before these, actually going back, some of the issues, if you will, that I had at home was that, and some of you maybe are, you know, growing up with in a divorced family. I didn't have a dad. So I didn't really had a good role model on that. My dad was on and off with my mom. And then once, you know, he got tired, my mom wouldn't come back with him. And he got tired, he got married, and he was gone. And so and that was tough for me. I always was probably one of you guys wanting to have my parents back together, and I wasn't looking like a bright side. But now I look back and I see, hey, my dad wasn't really there for me, and that's what maybe God gave me this awesome mentor, which we'll go into it soon. And it helped me to do what I did later on. So I grew up with a lot of love. So I was lucky enough, like I grew up with my grandparents, and they were there for me and my mom. My mom was an excellent person. But now that I know more about healthcare, I understand that my mom started to give us very early signs of mental health issues. And I know that that's very common now. It prevails in a lot of the society now. Like a lot of people are taking medications. So I don't know, maybe some of your parents are taking medications. And my mom never took medication, actually. That's part of why I end up on the natural side of healthcare. Because my mom, even though now that I can see that she was having trouble mentally, she always thought about natural things, and she always wanted to help in a natural way. And she didn't want to take pharma. So that kind of gave me a model of natural healthcare later on. And but my mom, doing the long story short, she started to have a lot of trouble. She started to lose all her jobs. She was a very highly educated person. She couldn't keep a job. And doing the long story short, we end up kind of bankrupt financially a couple of times. And up to a point that at a very early young age, like when I was a teenager, I was already kind of like a mother. So I became a mother for my mom, because someone needed to help her with the finances, and looking like, how are we gonna make it next month? And I remember not even having toilet paper sometimes, and having all these, kind of struggles, right? But but that makes you better in a lot of ways too. So I continue to go to track, and I was lucky enough that at this school that I went, there is this track coach that saw me, and he was like, hey, you have a talent. So at that time I started to hang out with the wrong people. I was always very kind of easy to come to um to trust, and I kind of give up on peer pressure, and those are things that you guys are going to go through too, like peer pressure is everywhere, right? And people are doing drugs, and people are um hanging out with the wrong crew. I always wanted to be kind of I wanted to hang out, and I wanted to kind of not popular, but here is kind of popular, but just being on the mingle. I always was fun. I always like to have fun, and sometimes the people that you associate yourself are not the best ones. And so if you associate yourself with those people all the time, my friends at the time, they had a grandmother that was helping them raise them, and they had a lot of free time. So I hang out with a lot of the girls that had a lot of free time. And what do you do if you're not studying, is you're doing something probably that is not so great. So that gives me a lot of other exposure. But I was lucky enough that my coach, and I had a boyfriend also really early on. So I was looking for love from the wrong places. Um, and my mom was working, and I didn't need any boyfriend, but because I didn't have the family that I thought that I should have, then I looked for that in other ways, right? So finding a boyfriend became really easy, and easy for me. So I had this boyfriend, and then my coach started to tell me, hey, he became my coach. And then I started to work really hard. I was at the track every day. And the long story short, I started to develop good work ethics, which I didn't know that those were work ethics at the time. I just liked track, and I wanted to be at the track. So he said, you're going to be doing weights. And I was like 12 years old, no, 13. And I was like, okay, I do it. And like at that time, that was not common at all. I wanted you to know that now you can see an Instagram, and you can see so many places, right? Like CrossFit is famous. I end up doing this thing that back 20 years ago, that was not a girly thing either. Like that was really weird. Now you can see women with muscles, and some woman likes it, right? But at that time, you were a volleyball, you were playing basketball, you were doing something normal, right? Like weights were not normal. And so, but I always was like intrigued by weights, and I liked the weight room. So I spent their time. And so who knew that I was going to end up being a very good weightlifter later? So doing the long story short, I worked hard on track, and I started to party a lot. I was in 10th grade, then 11, then 12, then I had a car since I was really like 16. And it was a struggle for me, right, to battle that, like, okay. And then my coach was like, hey, we have a track meet, what are you doing? You were partying. I can tell because you're exhibiting this behavior that I know that when you're fresh and these are your times, and so it was really helpful to have someone that if my mom wasn't doing that, or I was rejecting my mom because I was rebellious, then I had someone that was pulling me and say, hey, like, let's get back on this. Like, you're good at this. So those are things that you want to have in mind, because a lot of times you don't feel you're good at anything. And if that's how you feel, you need to look for something that you are good at it, maybe not that great yet, but that feels you good for you, and it's maybe a passion of you, and then it might end up in your purpose. So going back to that, I end up making a career out of it. I got scholarships, full paid on, in a very good university. I even got offers from the States, but at that time I didn't want to leave Puerto Rico because I was actually taking care of my mom. And I got a full ride for my grades and track. And then I failed. Doing the long story short, on my first year of college, it was really hard. I was in biology, which it's hard. And I had trouble with my track coach at the time. I was if you will, I was kind of victim of harassment, and it was very tough call for me. But at the time, I was at the gym room, and that was one of the fights that we had with the coaches. They were like, "You're spending too much time on the gym room. You're a gym brat," and I didn't know what it was that at the time. But then it ended up paying off because in 1998 or 1990s, basically, um, weightlifting became a sport for female athletes. And so then it started to open doors internationally at international level. And I wanted to compete at international level because I was competing in track, and then I stopped that, and then I started to compete. I went for trials and I did Olympic weightlifting, and then I ended up as a power lifter. And that was very weird too at the time. And so I broke all the records. I was in newspapers in Puerto Rico, and like it was great. I loved it, but it was not a female sport at all. Like it was ugly. It was like deadlifts and like you're all doing all these, like all these faces and squats and things that now are normal, right? And bench press. So, but at that time, that was not international. That was just a national level. So then from there, weightlifting become international. So there was an opportunity that you could go to Central Americans, Pan Ams, and Worlds and Olympics, right? So I really liked it, but there was no money on it. So what happened it was that in the last year of college, 2 years, yeah, before there was an opening that we could go to compete as with weightlifting, and I did the trials, and then I had to get to a level, and so and then we went. So we had to raise money in Puerto Rico. There was no money. The federation said, "Oh, well, we'll give you this amount," which it was like $100. That's just for some type of like symbol that we needed. And so anyhow, it was really hard. We all as a team have to raise money to put ourselves there, and it was in Japan. And the country didn't even care about us because there was no really money on it, and we were not on the first places. But they didn't know that there was a girl that was actually a wrestler. It's funny, Julieta. And then so her and I were kind of top like 5, and we end up placing. So I end up placing. I was the first woman in Puerto Rico to earn any medals as a worth, in a world weightlifting championships at the time in 99. And so when we came back, it was kind of like it was really, that's a story for another day, but it was a really cool thing because it was like a Cool Runnings. You guys probably know the movie Cool Runnings, that they were like in disadvantage, and it was just like that, like being with all those elite athletes and this little team, and and all the resources that they had. And we, I remember it was at that level that my coach was not even at the platform when I competed at Worlds. It was a Greek guy that I met, and he went and helped me. So it was a big mess. Like we were not ready at all. But I was lucky enough that I ended up placing. And then when I came back, because of the resources was so low, there was only one girl that could go to the Olympics, and she was gonna get like $1,000 a month, and that was like not enough. And then I had to stop then studying. So I was, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue? And then maybe in 2 years I can go to the Olympics, but there is no money. And then you have to, work really hard, train 3-5 hours a day. And that was not the problem. The problem was that then, at the same time, there is, you have to, I wanted to continue studying basically. So I decided to leave and then continue studying. And then now that brought me to my profession. So, so then, let me see, you have here, What sport did I play? I'd say that. Okay, so who influenced me? So when I was growing up, like I said, I was really lucky to have this coach. He became my father. Um, people that influenced me in a good way was, I work hard. My grandfather was a workaholic. Not a great example, but good work ethics. My grandmother was kind of like a safe place that I could go and can get support, right? And I see this back right now. And then my mom was, really good work ethics too. She just didn't, couldn't, continue with all that, but she was a good example. So, and so my coach became my mentor. Right now, I just texted him that actually I was gonna do this, and he's like, "I love you," and like um, it's good to have someone like that. So I end up he was kind of like the dad that I never had, basically. Um, and so that's again talking about talents, and then so how did I decide to work on weightlifting? I just told you it just happens. I didn't really thought about doing weightlifting, but it just happened that like someone tells you, hey, you might be good at this. And instead of me saying no, I said yes. I go try. Why not? It's not a woman thing, but if I might be good at that, I will go try it, right? Like I give that opportunity. That's how I end up like playing, because track was way harder and normal, right? But then weightlifting was weird and nobody heard about it. So that's how I end up being a weightlifter, and then it ended up being like a great sport for me that opened a lot of doors. And I had the opportunity to do it for my country, which is awesome. Um, and so being a professional athlete at that time helped me also because it helps me to pay for my college. So at the time, my dad, my mom, I didn't have, I don't know if you guys have, but some parents now, like we all think about our kids' future here, especially in America. When I grew up, like my parents didn't have a college fund or anything, and that instead of me saying, "Oh, college is so expensive, I'm not gonna go," I looked for a way that I could make it right, that I could provide for myself. So that's something that you want to also think, because it doesn't have to be sports; it could be something else. And I gotta tell you the truth, I have a lot of student loans, and that never stopped me either. Like I wanted to study healthcare, and I changed from straight medicine, allopathic medicine, to chiropractic school, and it was really expensive. And I just decided to do it, and I didn't thought about it. Yeah, maybe now that's not such a great thing to have student loans, but at the same time, I have my profession, and nobody can take that away from you. So that's something that you wanted to think, because I see that a lot of people now are like so caught up on not having debt, which I get, it is true. But at the same time, once you achieve something at a level that you feel that you can be successful at, the money will come. So you wanted to not let that stop you. If you don't have parents that are taking care of you, if you don't have good influencers that are, you can make those good influencers. And that's what we're gonna end up talking later about. So you can think about those things. So having those talents in being a professional athlete at the end helped me to provide for my schooling, right? And so as a mother and as a chiropractor now, I think that having all these experiences have helped me to be also a better chiropractor. So I end up being a strength and conditioning coach. That's the CSCS that you see at the end. Because I, at 18, when I was 18, I already was a trainer. So I became a trainer. That's actually how I end up money. Like I end up waitering, like doing waitress. And that was fun. That was a lot of money, but it was not the lifestyle. I was noticing, like I told you, I was hanging out with the wrong people, doing things that I knew that, and you will, adventure, and you will kind of experience things, but you need to know, is this what I want? And so you don't want to get hooked into anything. You don't want to do things that might kind of hunt you back later, legally speaking. So you wanted to think about those things when you are, and with the wrong crowd. And so being a trainer was a healthier lifestyle, and I enjoy doing it, right? So I ended up being a trainer early on. So then one of my dreams was to become a strength and conditioning coach, like as your teachers, right? Unfortunately, because I had a profession, I had to decide if I wanted to be training athletes at track, for example, as a weightlifter, which it's awesome and I loved it. And I will want to do it again. But as a chiropractor, I could make more my and meet my ends, and for my family, right? So and then now so those are things that you might also wanted to think about, like, hey, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. What should I pick, right? So I think that at the same time, you wanted to pick something later on once you're going through the motions of what do I want to do, or what do I want to do if I'm going to go to college or not, or what my major will be, or things like that. There's two things that you want to learn. I think passion is energy. It's something that fires you up. Basically, it flows easily. So when you're passionate about something, you're not really thinking about it. You're just doing it. It just happens to you. So think about those things, because those are things that if I ask you today, hey, what are you passionate about? You're like, I don't know. Like, well, you are. There are things that you might be passionate about that you're not really internalizing them. So that's how you know that you're passionate about something. It comes easy, you want to do it. And now purpose, in the other hand, is, for me, it's more what you're good about or what you might be passionate about, but you can service other people. You serve others with that purpose. With purpose, when you find you can blend both, but not all the time. So sometimes you're good at something that you're not really passionate about, but guess what? That's your talent. So what you need to do is you can try to blend both, but if that's not a possibility, you want to use that talent. Let's say that you're good at I don't know, cleaning or doing something. And people tell you, when you want to know if you're good at something, people might tell you, hey, you're good at that. Or, and you already have thought about it. Sometimes your inner being will tell you, oh, I'm kind of good at this. So that could end up being your purpose later. You can serve others. If you can take that and master it, how do you master something? Is working on it. Days, months, and years. Doesn't come easy. Those kids that you might play, if you like gaming, they play a lot, right? So it's the same thing for anything, for sports, for education. You have to master something. So if you're good at that and you continue working on it slowly, doesn't have to be a lot, but slowly and steady, then if you're determined, you might be able to put that as service, meaning other people are going to pay you for it. Some company can hire you for it. You can get education on that and even go higher than that, and then be an expert on it, right? So those are things that you wanted to kind of think about. Now, being a Latina and a woman, I think that you guys wanted me to talk about this too. So it's just really interesting because I didn't feel that there was so much minority issue where I come from. I think that now that I moved to the States, I see that way more. Here we have a lot of more racism, like if you're one color, they divide you more. So then if you add that you are a Latina, or you're coming from a Spanish background, basically Spanish speaking background, and you don't look like the people that are around you, that you stand out, it might be difficult. But I say, instead of feeling bad for yourself, take that as an advantage. What can you do to help yourself with your language? if you don't, you know, if language is an issue, like use that. There is people, I am paying right now $30 an hour to get translations for my business. Like you can make money out of things that you think sometimes are disadvantages. Like if you're in school, try to not leave school and try to make sure that you finish school and you learn as much as you can, because that's going to help you later. Like, you know, being a woman, like try to do things that are good for you, that you think that you could do, that will help you to stand out. You don't have to let that bring you down, just because you're a female and you're, you know, a minority. And so now I would like to, how are we doing in time? How are we doing in time?
We only got like probably 5 minutes, so we can.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know, because we started after.
And if anybody has a question,
Okay, so let's do the
or write it
questions
in the
now.
chat.
So we have some questions that I would like you to think about, that kind of puts all these in perspective. And then you guys can ask me anything, if you want at the end. So basically, knowing what I just told you, I would like you to think, do you wanted to pull that out?
Yeah, Ms. Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez just put a link, open the link, and then she's gonna share her screen. And go ahead and get a little stick'em and answer the question. What's the first one? How do you connect?
Yeah. So basically, I want you to start thinking about your life, okay, and about your life on school, and I want you to think, how can you connect better with people? And this is what I mean by connecting. I want you to think about people that can influence you, or that are influencing you right now. And just write it down. Like, who influenced you? Well, of course, your parents influence you if you're, you know, being raised by them. Your grandparents influence you, or your uncles are influence you, or your aunts. Whoever you're growing up are going to help you to create connections, right? Then you want to think about your family and friends, because those are also influencing you. And then also you want to think about school. So your teachers are influencing you, if you want to, right, in a way. And they can influence you in a good or in a bad way, because you might think, oh, I don't like that teacher. Well, guess what? If you don't like her, you're probably being influenced in the wrong way. So I want you to think also, how are you then being influenced, and how can you connect? So these exercises for you to think about connections, because connections are important for community, and community, it is important for you to be to use your resources, to not stay stuck with your family, because sometimes we don't like our family, or we're having some type of dysfunction of the family. And so, and that's everybody, okay? Don't think that just you. Everybody has some type of dysfunction in the family. So these type of question helps you to understand, okay, how do I connect with people that can influence me in the right way if I am not having that right now? So let's just take 30 seconds and write those answers. You can write down names of people, places. So when you think about places, you can think about, like I said, school, coaches, teachers, online, if you're connected with anybody, volunteer work. I think that volunteer work, if you're not doing volunteer work, you need to get out there and help the community somehow. If it's at school, if it's at church, any place that you can help other people, because when you're helping other people, you're a service. And when you're at service, you also find your passions, and you connect to your purpose. Okay, so I'm gonna give you a little bit of time. Okay, now let's talk about fail. So should I give them a little more time?
That's fine. We could move on. We got like 3 minutes. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically fail. So on the fail part, you wanted to write down where have you failed. Be very honest with yourself and write down how you have failed. You have failed to yourself, or you feel that you have disappointed your parents, or you have failed at school somehow. It could be with friends. You have done things that maybe haven't been that kind or generous. And you want to write those down. You want to write down where you feel that you are lacking something. Basically, if it's with your parents, you're being disrespectful, you're being disobedient, or you're not doing as good as what you want in school. Think about which maybe which
excuse me.
thinking about classes. So think about maybe classes that you're not doing well, that you would like to do better. Just think about how you feel in this department in your life. Like what things you feel you could do better and you're not, but you're capable. You're capable, but you're not giving your best. Think about that.
And what's the next question, Ms. Rocio? Ms. Ramirez.
And then the next one is so what have you done before that make you feel good and that you did a good job, or you even feel proud about it? It could be a class. It could be you did something good for someone else, like you pick up a pencil with someone, dropped it, or you clean out after your brother, or you help your mom this morning somehow, even though you didn't want to do it. It could be very simple things like that. You did your chores yesterday, or you have a sport that you like, that you feel that when you perform well. It could be something you do as volunteer, something you do at church, something you do at school. Let's say that you like to help your teacher afterwards, after the class is over, or you're helping your brother, or you're helping your dad. Anything you have done that makes you feel good with yourself because you did it. And in this part, I love, remember this word, because prevail will be in your life. You have to make yourself victorious with the little things, because the little things are gonna get you to a bigger thing. And so I love the meaning. So prevail has a lot of meanings, but I love the meaning when it says prevail means that you're prone, that you have proof, you're proving more power than opposing forces. You're basically excelling, even though you're having opposing forces. It's going against the current. It's difficult, it's struggling, it's hard, but you're still doing it. And you might not do it as good as what you wanted now, but you will continue. If you're determined and you're consistent, you will prevail. So thank you so much for having me. I hope that these help you and give you some food for thought. And
Yes.
We didn't talk about posture, but maybe we can do that another time. Sorry, we were kind of running out of time at the beginning, so I just started straight up. But we can do that. We can talk about ergonomics and posture and a lot of other things next time if you want.
Yes, we would love to have you back for sure. Thank you for your time so much. And you cover so much that it's like, yeah, all of the questions were answered, and we're, very fortunate, and it's the perfect time. It's 10 o'clock. So if you guys have any questions, you can, and we have like a minute, unmute yourself and go ahead and answer the question. Ask the question, or thank Dr. Sepulveda for her time.
So I will see those.
I think Doctor opened a lot of topics, so there are more things to come, and it's a great education. So this is just the beginning, I would say, not to interfere, but this is a great opening with a lot of topics to cover: health, self-esteem, mental health. 2 years ago, I was at the UN, and Lady Gaga, because she's very famous, she has this foundation which is run by her mother. It's called Born This Way. So 2 years ago, 3, they start talking about health and mental health. So there's no health without mental health, and you started that. So it's a good start, and I'll let the student, yeah.
So I'm seeing a lot of thank yous, and I saw a question, but I don't see it anymore, I think. Because it's just scrolling to the thank yous. So thank you, everybody. I